Can you be influential without partaking in the outrage economy? Can you be influential by being kind? Can you be influential by speaking truth without having to add the extra flair? Hello, everybody. This is Chatting with Candice. I'm your host, Candice Horbacz. If you are watching, you might notice that things look a little bit different. So we have an official setup, and I'm so excited about it because for once I feel like everything kind of looks more like it does in person. I look more like me. My studio looks more like itself. And that's just a great feeling because there's nothing worse than seeing yourself all over the internet and being like, that's not my face. So yeah, really excited that you can kind of see me and the studio in better light. Really excited about that. So we're doing something a little bit new this week. And I think it's one of the hitches that tends to happen when you are doing virtual podcasts. Sometimes there's tech issues, sometimes the guest doesn't show up and you can't get a hold of them, and there's just a lot more variables that you kind of have to deal with. So we are doing a quick solo episode just with me giving you some updates on my life, topics that I was actually supposed to cover with a guest previously that bailed last minute, which is very bad etiquette. But things happen. So I'm going to try and do this by myself. Bear with me. Let me know how I do. I'm really nervous. Before we jump into my updates and the topics, if you can hit like and subscribe wherever you are listening or watching, that helps me a ton with the algo. I could use all the help I can get. We are a little podcast that could, and it takes all of us. So I appreciate you. So we're going to have on I'm making sure no one can see my notes because I don't want to give it away. A pretty big polarizing talking head in the manosphere. And I was actually really excited because I was going to try to provide a little bit of a devil's advocate perspective, the feminine angle, and just kind of challenge some of the things that I think he says that I don't agree with, and then talk about some of the things that I think are very helpful that he's putting out there. And in a strange turn of events, a lot of it had to do with diet and nutrition. And I guess you'll see why that is kind of perfect timing. Let's dive into it. We were going to get into the misconception of calorie deficits. So I think it's really easy when you're trying to talk about weight loss and accountability and don't be a fuck and stop being lazy. If only it were that simple. And I think sometimes people say things like that because it obviously gets a lot of views. It makes people feel a very specific type of way, and then they want to comment and share, and it's great for engagement and marketing. I don't think it's great for reality, though. So I've been pretty open about my health issues, whether it was with PCOS, which has a huge effect on your hormones and your metabolism and the way that your body kind of deals with sugar. I've been pretty open about my Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune thyroid disorder. With Graves' disease, is it tends to be hyperactive. For those of you that don't know, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a really rockin' metabolism and you can eat whatever you want. So it basically, with a lot of people that I've met, makes like these really big swings with your metabolism and the way that you can kind of put on weight or lose weight or lean muscle mass, whatever it is. It just kind of throws all of your hormones into whack. So there's like a lot of variability when it comes to how you look. So I recently had my new baby, as some of you know, and while he is amazing, that journey has kicked my Graves' disease into Hashimoto's now. So now still autoimmune, but now it's slow. And I just cannot get rid of the extra 10 baby pounds. And the first time around, it just shed. Like I didn't have to do anything. I blinked and the weight was off. This one, I'm working out, working on my diet. I'm getting my blood panels done every 6 weeks, and my hormones are just chaotic. My testosterone is non-existent. My body is trying to attack my thyroid, so it's not fun. So when you talk about a calorie deficit, there are a lot of people that do have hormonal imbalances, whether it's for autoimmune, PCOS, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, underactive or overactive thyroid, and a whole host of other things. So while I do think it's important to mind what your diet is, it's also, and if not more critical, to know where your blood panel is at. So you can find a hormone doctor, an endocrinologist. They can run these tests for you, and you can kind of check where your hormone levels are at, where your vitamins and minerals are at, and then kind of get like a good starting point. Because if all of that is out of whack, you could potentially be doing everything right and still be either not losing or gaining weight. So when you have someone who's all chiseled and telling you to stop being a lazy piece of shit and just lose the weight, I say fuck off, because there's a lot of people that have X factors that they're not dealing with. So we got that out of the way. The other thing I wanted to get into with this guest, and I guess we'll just go on a solo rant about, is mindset. So they've done some pretty interesting case studies when it comes to mindset. One of them was on the Andrew Huberman podcast, and they had two groups of people and they gave them the exact same milkshake. One of them, they told, this is a delicious milkshake. It's got all these calories, all this fat. It's a milkshake. The other group, they said this is a nutritional drink. It's got all this protein in it. It's low carb, low sugar. It's a health drink. So all that was changed was how they delivered what this drink was to the control groups. So the group that had the milkshake, the one that they knew was a milkshake, showed all of the biological markers for like a high glucose spike and how you would expect that to react in their body. The group that thought it was a health drink, no spike. Like their body thought this is a health drink. So by consequence, the other group is more likely to put on weight than the other. So mindset's also very huge going into like a weight loss journey and how you kind of want to get in charge of like your own health. Another interesting indicator when it comes to just eat less, you fat fuck. I just have to say it because this guy says it. I'm like, you're missing the whole point. When it comes to just simply eat at a deficit and you'll lose weight, they've also done studies with the microbiome. So that is like all of the bacteria that's living in your gut. You have healthy bacteria, unhealthy bacteria. You have a whole bunch of hormones that are being pumped in there. It's a very complex system. So they've done fecal transplants from obese rats, mice, one or the other, and they put them into otherwise healthy, lean rats or mice, some kind of rodent. When the fecal transplant was complete, the otherwise healthy mouse started getting like cravings similar to the obese rodent and started putting on weight. And then it was working out the same. They put it on a healthy diet, couldn't lose the weight because the gut was saying that this was an obese environment. So if your gut microbiome is completely out of whack, that's another contributing factor to why you might not be losing weight. So again, you could be eating at a deficit, but if everything else is out of order, it's simply not going to work. So there's other tests that you can do to kind of check the state of your microbiome. There's books that you can purchase on like resetting your gut. I'll try to find a couple that I've read and then link them in the descriptions below. It's a ton of homework, but if you're trying to get your health in order, it's definitely worth the investment of just reading a few hours and getting one of these books down and then just tackling each problem individually. So you can start wherever you kind of think the issue is, whether it's with your gut or with your hormones or with both, if you have the time to kind of attack it from both angles. For me and my journey, because again, it's still very new as far as my transition from going to hyper to hypo, is so far what I've read is a lot of it has to do with leaky gut. So with leaky gut, it's basically your stomach lining is very tight. And for those of you that are not watching, I'm kind of putting my hands together to kind of show that lock. And when you have leaky gut, it kind of breaks that barrier. And when that barrier is broke, a lot of things kind of seep out from your gut into the rest of your body and into your bloodstream. And then that's no bueno. And then your immune system is essentially goes on high alert. So we're going to start with trying to heal my leaky gut because I'm assuming that's probably public enemy number one. We're going to get rid of gluten, sugar, dairy, and what was the other thing? Limit alcohol. And I love my wine, so it's going to be really hard, but we're going to try there. So I'm starting tomorrow. You can keep me accountable. I'll be sharing what I'm eating and how I'm changing my diet on social if you want to follow me and see some recipes that are gut healthy. But it's going to be hard because I love my carbs, but my health is more important, and me being able to play with my kids and keep up and not have extra weight on me and not be achy from this thyroid condition is paramount. So it is worth giving up the bread for sure. Hey everyone, this is new. So we are taking a quick break for a couple of sponsors. How exciting is that we have a couple sponsors for the podcast? So this is new. Please don't skip it. Just listen. It's cool stuff, I promise. So my first one is a small company called Ragnar's Rocks, and I'll make sure I have the link below. As you know, I love crystals and I get made fun of for it all of the time, but I'm not going to change my ways, and I'm going to stand by it. I truly believe in them and I think that they're beautiful. So sue me. But he sent me, I mean, how incredible is that? He sent me this beautiful amethyst. I've got this really cute rose quartz skull. All of this is on my table. You can't see, but when I start doing 2 cameras, you'll be able to see my little setup. And this cute little crystal Buddha. How adorable is he? These bracelets are from there. I mean, I was really stoked to have him as a sponsor because this is right up my alley. So if you're into any crystals or you just want to check out the website, it's ragnarsrocks.com, and I'll link that below. And the last affiliate, last sponsor, please don't skip. This one's a good one. So we all know the benefits of fasting. Well, my husband and I have used this company, Prolon, actually a couple of times. So I was really excited that they wanted to be an affiliate of the podcast. So if you want to try Prolon, it's a fasting mimicking diet. So you get all the benefits of a water fast, and it's a lot easier because you get this delicious food instead of having to completely eat nothing. So you can try Prolon for $150 with the code Candice. Some of the claims for, and I mean, I say claims, but I'm going off of a script, guys. 60% of people that completed the fast had better energy, mental clarity, and focus. You'll definitely shed some lbs. I felt a ton lighter after doing it. It's cool to do difficult stuff, and obviously fasting is not easy, so it's kind of cool to see how you can kind of push it and get through something that you thought you might not be able to do. It's a lot easier than just doing a water cleanse. And again, I think the average here, people lose an average of 5.7 pounds and 1.6 inches off of their waistline. So as soon as I'm done breastfeeding, I'm doing one of these, and Eric's supposed to be starting anytime now. So we'll see when he decides to start. So I'll link that below. Again, if you want to try Prolon, you can try it for $150. Use code Candice, and let's return to the episode. Sleep. How can we not talk about sleep? We're talking about weight loss. So, especially for women, cortisol is our number one enemy when it comes to trying to stay in shape, keep pounds off, feel like a functioning, thriving human. So, obviously, having a new kid, that's going to put your hormones in chaos. You're obviously not sleeping, which is probably what kind of triggered that reversal in my thyroid. So, for a lot of us, we don't prioritize sleep, we prioritize hustle, we prioritize getting our tasks complete and kind of who can be working the most, getting the most views, likes, dollars, whatever it is. You'll find that you have more time and more energy if you actually prioritize. I was watching this podcast, and it was with a sleep expert. He said if you rounded to the closest whole number for percentage of the population that could sleep on less than, I want to say, 7 hours of sleep, it would be 0. And wish I had a Jamie to fact check that, but I think it was 7 hours. Anything less than 7 hours is 0%. So anyone who's like, I can run off of 4 hours, it's like, well, that's gonna fall out underneath you very soon, and there's gonna be some consequences. And I can tell you, as someone who's struggled with health issues, it is not worth it. So prioritizing sleep, getting good sleep hygiene, eliminating light before you go to bed, screens, kind of setting yourself up for success, maybe doing some breathing exercises. I plug Othership all of the time. Othership is a breathing app. I've had the founder on the podcast, Robbie Bent, and they have so many different types of breathing, whether it's for getting energized in the morning or kind of calming down before night. They have stuff that you can do as a couple. It's a great app, and it's not an ad. I just really highly recommend it and love it. So getting yourself into a state that's ready for successful sleep, kind of like you would if you have a child. right? You have their bedtime routine and it triggers their brain to start winding down. You have to do the same thing for yourself. So whatever that kind of looks like for you, eliminating the lights in your bedroom, making sure the temperature is down, around like 65, 66 degrees. I do 67 because I'm a baby and we also have small children. So that's as cold as we'll go. But yeah, sleep, super crucial. So if you're not looking at things like hormones, metabolism, mindset, microbiome, sleep, that's a whole lot more than a calorie deficit and a lot more important for your health from a holistic standpoint. I think when you look at deficits too, this kind of gets into, it's purely anecdotal, but I know a lot of people that have had similar issues. When you're eating all of this trash that's Splenda, diet, low cal, low fat, ultra processed, it can actually start to wreak havoc on your body. Like you can do your own research. I'm not going to get into all of that, but if you're not eating whole foods, you might be at a deficit and you might even initially lose a bunch of weight, but you are kind of asking for trouble, in my opinion, when it comes to long-term health, inflammation, other diseases and disorders that might happen from some of these chemicals and additives that are in the food. So I think that there's a way to get there, and it might be a lot slower if you're just doing it with whole foods and maybe more calorie dense foods than all of this processed low cal stuff. But I promise you on the other side, it's going to be a lot better based off of my own personal journey. I did want to ask this guest about the effects of cortisol, especially with women, because as we mentioned, that is a huge factor when it comes to achieving your health and fitness goals. So when I switched from doing super hardcore, like HIIT, high intensity weight training, I just always felt very inflamed. I never felt like I looked how I wanted to look. And I did have muscle mass, but it was just bulky and I wasn't lifting crazy heavy. I wasn't eating a ton to, bulk up or anything like that. It was just my body didn't like that level of stress that I was dealing with. When I switched to doing softer movements like yoga and Pilates and walking and meditation, that's when I had my best body that I was the most proud of. I was the leanest I've ever been. I had a washboard stomach, lean, depuffed, no inflammation, no stress. So you have to listen to your body, especially if you're a woman. I think working out with your cycle and not doing these high cortisol evoking movements is probably going to be your friend, especially if you have an autoimmune disorder. I think that the more gentle workouts are going to get you where you want to be. And sometimes you might feel like you're not making progress because you're sitting there and you're doing these little clamshells with your thighs, right? And you're just kind of pumping away and you're like, this is not the same as obviously doing a deadlift or a heavy squat. But I promise you it'll give you all of that juicy booty that you want without all of the stress. And I actually have a guest coming on, hopefully in person, and she's an expert when it comes to women's cycles and training for your cycle and how to eat on your cycle and just understanding the fundamental differences between how a man should be working out and how a woman should be working out and how our hormones play into that. Yeah, I guess the last thing that I wanted to kind of get into with this guest on diet was having a healthy relationship with food. And this kind of goes into a little bit of woo, but again, there was that milkshake study, and you can look it up. It's really fascinating. A lot of how you feel about food is going to dictate how your body processes it. So, having a healthy relationship with it and not being scared to eat, not being guilty when you do indulge, and just reframing your mindset. Like if you were to have a piece of pizza, and instead of saying, oh, I'm a piece of shit, I need to go run this off, I can't believe I slipped up on my diet, be like, no, there's fats and protein in the cheese, and there's protein in the pepperoni, and I'm getting a good boost of energy through the carb that is the crust. And really try to feel that and reframe it. It's not to say eat the whole pie and make that regular, because unless you have a mindset that's ironclad, it's probably not going to work. But I would say you're going to gain less weight and you're going to enjoy the process. Food is meant to be enjoyed. So don't look at it like an enemy. It's just like anything else. You want to have a healthy relationship with it, not overdo it, and indulge sparingly, just like most of life's pleasures. But if you're not eating what you enjoy, I mean, what are you doing? I guess the last thing, and it's pretty short, I wanted to get into body positivity because I think that that's a huge talking point right now, especially with the left versus right and the red pilled versus the woke and whatever these groups of division are. I would be curious where all the outrage was when we had the super skinny heroin chic Kate Moss era, like the Tyra Banks being a monster on top model and telling girls that were 110 pounds that they were plus size. So that to me is just as unhealthy as kind of propping up literal obese models and saying that's also beautiful. I think both are a problem. I think you have to look at what is a healthy body for you. Not everyone is going to be a 00. And frankly, a lot of those models are not healthy. I think if you are struggling with weight, that it's super important. Again, it comes down to mindset, is appreciating your body. I think that there's a difference between appreciating the body that you have and saying, this allows me to walk. This allows me to climb stairs. There was a part of my journey where I couldn't go up and down stairs because my Graves was so bad and my muscles had literally atrophied. I couldn't walk up and down my stairs. My fiance and my now husband had to actually carry me. So that was a really difficult time for me because you don't realize how much you take for granted when you do have health. So when I was starting to get better, we went to the gym and I remember sitting on the leg press and I had no weight on it. And obviously there's some resistance there, like maybe, I don't know, 25, 30 pounds before you put any plates on. And I couldn't do it. Like my muscles literally couldn't move 25 or 30 pounds. They had disappeared. And I was just breaking down and sobbing. I mean, like, if I ever get this back, I'm never going to take it for granted. So there's times where I'm like, I don't want to do that workout, or I find myself in a negative, lazy habit, and I bring myself back to there and say, no, like you need to appreciate it while you have it because nothing is guaranteed. And I think that you can kind of use that in any example. So again, if you have weight, it's not this body positive affirmation, like any size is beautiful and healthy, because that's not true. It's what does my body do for me? What am I grateful for? And I should be treating it with a lot more respect and I should be treating it with a lot more care because, again, nothing is guaranteed. So just having that value for it and for yourself. So I think that there's a difference between there, and it's not just, again, just shame based and taking on people because they have extra weight, which is, again, what's going to get you a ton of the clicks, but that doesn't necessarily make you a good person. So I guess my hope that was for this episode and for this guest was, can you be influential without partaking in the outrage economy? Can you be influential by being kind? Can you be influential by speaking truth without having to add the extra flair? And my hope is that the answer is yes. We'll see. I have no idea. My hope is that people kind of get exhausted and burnt out with this outrage economy and they want to support creators that are kinder and looking at issues that we all agree are issues. If you look at obesity, it is a huge issue for the United States. It costs a lot of money, it costs a lot of lives, and it's very dangerous. But there's a way to do it that is, you genuinely want people to do better and to get their health in their own hands. And then there's one that you're just trying to get clicks. So we'll see how this goes. I was really nervous for doing this, and I still am. That's probably why I talked so fast. And this is going to be really choppy because we're going to be getting rid of dead space and ums and likes, which I'm working on. I just did it again. Yeah, thank you for listening. Let me know if you liked this solo episode. I promise I'll get better. No one is good at anything the first time that they do it. And I will put this out no matter what because I think it's important to show growth, and I'm going to grow. That's my promise to you. So if you liked this episode or other episodes where it's not just me and I'm not babbling, make sure you hit like and subscribe. And you can go to chattingwithcandice.com to support the podcast. You can buy me a cup of coffee. I'll actually just turn it into a glass of wine, even though I'm not supposed to drink a lot, just to get rid of my jitters from this episode. So buy me a glass of wine. You can go to chattingwithcandice.com. And if you have not left a 5-star review in a little bit, you can always do that multiple times. That helps me with the algorithm. And that's all, I think. I'll see you next time. Please be kind. This was my first one. I know I didn't do great, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Chatting with Candice. If you enjoyed the episode and the conversation, make sure that you hit the like and subscribe button. And if you have a moment, please leave a 5-star review. It helps me to break the algorithm. And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to chattingwithcandice.com. And from there, you can click the link that will take you to Patreon or the one that says buy me a coffee. It's cold out there, folks. Buy me some coffee. All of that directly goes back into the podcast. I've got Jamie over there helping now, and it'll eventually help us get some more in-person guests. So please, if you enjoy the content, show your love. I'll see you next time.